So, welcome to the Digital Maddie Show with your host and host Mithyll, a pod made exclusively for solopreneurs, artists, and coaches who wants to build their digital empire. With 15 plus years of business experience, I cover topics on personal branding, content creation, and digital marketing on this show, and invite many experts who share the same passion like mine. Today, we have an awesome guest on the show. I am super excited to have him. But before I bring him onto the stage, let me just share with you his entire credentials. So he's born plain as Alex William Smith on the 13th August 1975 into a showbiz family while traveling with Gandy's Circus here in England. He made a debut on the stage at the age of 3, known as Flap, that is Britain's youngest paid circus clown, but now better known as Jonathan Royle, the celebrity hypnotherapist, master NLP hypnosis trainer, and the presenter of the Mind Control Exposed documentary Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. With the stage name of Jonathan Royle, he is the author of over 30 books, including the most recent one entitled Shitnosis. Like, that's a lovely name, which is arguably the ultimate self help book, helping readers to get over the shit in their lives and to get their shits together. So, without wasting much of the time, let us bring on the stage none other than Jonathan. So, Jonathan, welcome.
Hi there, how you doing?
Super cool. How about you?
Well, I'm good. It always makes me smile. I know it's my book, but whenever I hear the title of it, it always brings a smile to my face. Now, I know it might upset some people. They might think that's swearing or something, but the truth is, if you're truly honest, you know the vast majority of people at some point in their life, whether they verbalized it or just thought it in their head, perhaps had a challenge in their personal life or their business life, something just isn't going right, and they think to themselves, "Oh, I wish this shit had just go away." It's a kind of way we relate to things, and that's why I used it as a title. But it always makes me smile when I hear other people say it.
Absolutely. I'm in awe with the name and really loved it. But let's go ahead with our show and would love to know your backstory. So all the people who are listening this episode would be excited to know more about you. So the stage is all yours. Request you to share your backstory with all of us.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my journey to, because obviously viewers and listeners, you're involved in the business world and you're involved in marketing things digitally, whether that be products, services, or whatever. And I do that as well, and we'll get to that later. But what led me into that world? Well, it's an odd one. As already been mentioned, I was born in 1975, 13th of August 1975, into a show business family whilst my parents were travelling with Gandhi's Circus. My dad was performing as a circus clown, Tizzy the Clown, and my mum, and he also did a yogi fakir type out where he did lay on beds of nails, went up ladders of daggers, and was fire eating such like. And my mum was doing a Wild West knife throwing, sharp shooting style Western act. So, as is the thing on the circus, people end up getting involved at an early age, and they teach each other's acts, so that if somebody was injured, for example, somebody else can fill in and the show can carry on, as it were. So at the age of 3 and a bit, I made my debut as Flap the Clown, Britain's youngest paid, probably the world's youngest paid at the time, but there's definitely somebody stolen the title since, circus clown. And I was performing, which was great. Audiences clapped at the right times, laughed at the right times, made me feel good, and getting paid as well. However, cutting a long story as short as possible, my mum decided, who didn't come from a show business background, that I should have more of a normal upbringing than going from one town to another all the time and going from one school to another all the time. And so by the time I was 6 and a bit, she got a house, and started going to one school in this place, and was only performing in the evenings and at weekends and school holidays and stuff around normal school. Unfortunately, at that school, the moment that I started getting featured in national newspapers here in England, such as the Daily Mirror ran a headline when I was 6 years old that said, "Alex, the circus six it." because my birth name's Alex, although now I go by Jonathan Royle now, but just about on all levels, business and personal, majority of the time. The teachers at that school started to give me grief, and the only way I can sum it up in a simple term is they were bullying me and persecuting me and making life as difficult as possible. And I can only assume on reflection that there was some level of jealousy or resentment because they'd worked out that on a pro rata basis, on a what I was getting paid per hour basis, I was earning more than them at the time. Plus, I was obviously getting more retention. So school life became hell, but I have to say the pupils there, my fellow classmates were fantastic, but the teachers made it a living hell. And I literally begged to be moved to another school, which actually meant moving to another town, which we did do. By the time I was 8, I was going to a different school in a different town. And I'm glad to say the bullying and persecution from teachers ended immediately. And I cannot praise the teachers at St. Luke's C of E School in Haywood, England, enough. They were fantastic, supportive, encouraging, both at an academic level, but also in terms of encouraging by them blossoming interest in magic tricks and conjuring, which at the time was just a hobby, but it was what I was spending the money on that I'd earned from doing the performances as Flap the Clown. Unfortunately, as I continue to get more media publicity and do shows in the area and whatnot, lo and behold, the pupils found out. And at that school, it was from fellow pupils that I got bullied and persecuted, and life made a living hell. Mainly because I was a circus clown at the time. Also, I was, my parents were circus. And it's not clear on here, because I've cut it short, because that's the way I prefer it now. But my hair, when longer, is ginger. And I'm not sure if it's the same where you are, but ginger hair is an instant target for bullying. At least it was back in my day at school. So life wasn't good at that time. And the relentless bullying ultimately caused, and so I'm jumping forward a bit here to, I was probably about going on for 10, and I decided, I know what I'll do. I'll refuse to perform as Flap the Clown anymore with my dad. Because if I'm not being Flap the Clown, then I won't get bullied for being Flap the Clown, which was nonsensical because I'd still done it previously and I was still from a circus family. And the bullying still continued. But in my head at the time, I thought that might be an escape route. It didn't work, as it were. But I did stop performing as Flap the Clown, but I still yearned and wanted the clapping, the applause from an audience and the laughter at the right times and that appreciation. Love, you might say. That feel-good factor. And so I needed to carry on performing. And so I started performing as a magician with the magic that I'd been learning over the previous years. So I was still getting the feelings I wanted from that. I said goodbye to the clowning, but bullying was still going on. And by the time I was 12, I'm saying 12, I might have been 11 and a bit. You give or take a few months, you have to excuse me on that one. But the pain and the emotional turmoil and the effect it had on my self-image, self-esteem, self-respect, and all those sort of things, self-identity of the relentless bullying led to me one day lying down in the evening, well, early evening. It was, it was winter time when it went darker quicker. And I lay down in the middle of the main road in Haywood, figuring no vehicles would be out to see me and everything would be over pretty quickly and the pain would be at an end. Don't think I need to get any more graphic than that. After what seemed like forever, and as people will know, there's times in life that you can be with somebody and you suddenly look at your watch and you've been with them for several hours, but it only feels like a few short moments. And equally, there's times in life when you can be in a situation where you feel like you've been there forever and ever and ever. And then when you get out of that situation and you look at your watch, and it was only a couple of minutes, time and perceptions can be distorted. Well, it seemed like forever, but it was probably only 30 seconds, a minute at tops. Anyway, I got fed up of lying in the road because no traffic came, which was bizarrely unusual in itself. So I stood up and made my way back to the pavement. And the moment one of my feet touched onto the pavement or sidewalk, I suddenly heard whoosh and a big draft behind me. And I turned and looked and I saw a big, massive articulated lorry had just whooshed by at massive high speed. Literally a split second of difference, and I'd have got hit and it would have all ended. But in that moment, in that second, I realized what the survivors of jumping out of multi-story buildings realized when they jumped out of the windows. And there have been some survivors who, when they've been interviewed, they said, you know what? The reason I jumped was because I thought I had all these numerous problems in life, but the moment I jumped out of that window and I was hurling towards the floor at high speed, I realized I only had one problem. And that problem was that I just jumped out of the window. And it makes you kind of look at things and think, surely there must be another way. And that led me on a quest to find that other way. And I saw a book in the library called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which for business owners, there's great techniques in there that will help you with your sales and marketing and stuff in terms of how to psychologically and emotionally, positively and ethically manipulate and deal with people as one adult dealing with another adult. Unfortunately, I very rapidly discovered it doesn't work too well when you yourself, as I was, is about 12 years old and the other students are 12. It didn't work. I thought the title was going to live up to its name and I was going to be able to influence the bullies so they became my friends. Didn't work. But it did introduce me to the popular psychology section of the library, where I later got another book called Day by Day in Every Way by a French gentleman called Emile Coué, who is best known for the personal affirmation of day by day in every way. I'm getting better and better. And studies over the years have shown that saying that to yourself sort of a dozen times, first thing when you open your eyes in the morning and you're still not fully awake, so the critical faculty, analytical area of your mind is still waking up, not fully with it. So any suggestions you give yourself go straight into your personal desktop computer, your unconscious, subconscious mind, and you can do the same thing just before you go to sleep at night. You can program yourself to day by day in every way, start feeling and being better and better in everything. So I started using those techniques on myself, and sure enough, it helped give me more resilience and feeling of inner strength to handle the bullying and the situations in life. But I also came across in this book a couple of techniques. One was called the law of reversed effort. And in neuro-linguistic programming, a technology of the mind, they term that as what resists persist, or you get more of what you focus on in life. Which is why for a lot of people, personal affirmations or things like the law of attraction don't work, because they end up phrasing their suggestions or affirmations incorrectly, and their mind focuses on the idea that they no longer want to be poor, okay? Which is entertaining in the mind and repeating the idea that you could possibly remain poor or that you are currently poor. Whereas if instead they were to phrase it in terms of every day in every way, I am becoming more, I'm attracting more wealth and abundance, and each day it grows more positively. That is not saying some miracles happened overnight, but it is saying entertaining the possibility that a process has begun and the outcome of that process will be to be wealthier and more abundant. And there's no suggestion in it of remaining or being poor. It's all about the way things are structured, and that's something we'll come to later. It's something I cover massively in my book. So I was doing this on myself and I learned that technique. And I also call it, there's another technique, the Yoda technique. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just what I call it. And if you've seen the Star Wars films, Yoda, the little green dude, who is the master of the force, says, do or do not, there is no try. And what this basically means is that when you use, whether it's verbally or thinking it, the word try, you are entertaining the possibility and the idea that it's possible that you could fail in doing that thing. Because otherwise you'd say, I am doing this. When you say, I'm going to try to do this, or think I will try my best at this, you're entertaining the possibility that something else could occur, which would be not your best or not achieving it. And thus that could become the reality or an element of the reality, where hence do or do not, there is no try. It's the way you frame it and focus it. Also, that's why stage hypnotists, stage mesmerists, hypnotizers, perhaps when they get people to put their hands together and squeeze them together and imagine they're locking, gluing, welding, cementing together. Now, just prove to yourself you've done this right and try to separate your hands. Obviously, they would have talked to them longer than I did then. I'm not doing it. I'm just giving this as an example. And that word try implies to the individual that there's a possibility that the hands may indeed be stuck together, or it may feel that way because of the suggestions they've been given. And so that can grow and become that person's reality. And I thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. So the next day, when the school bully came to pin me against the wall, their usual pattern of behavior was to, when they bumped into me in the playground, coerce me to the nearest wall, pin me against the wall by the throat, give me a load of verbal insults, so their entourage, their crowd would laugh and at them like they're, you know, the best comedian ever, and then they would hit me and walk off with their cronies laughing. Well, in NLP and hypnosis, there's a thing called a pattern interrupt, and this can be applied to marketing and business as well, to get people's attention on your offer or your product. But when you do something that's unexpected, it suddenly makes people get a little bit confused and disorientated, that kind of eyes glazing over like, what the hell are you on about state, which is where the critical faculty, analytical area of your brain is trying to analyze what's going on, but gets sensory overload and kind of goes, I've had enough of this, and goes for a coffee break, like the tired nightclub bouncer. Meaning that any suggestion can then immediately go through to your personal laptop computer, your unconscious, subconscious mind, or imagination as it's called. And as Emil Coué says in that same book that I mentioned, when the imagination and the human will, i.e. the conscious mind, are in conflict, the imagination, which is a much stronger force, will always win. Which is why when people are perhaps going for a business meeting or a job interview, if they start thinking to themselves consciously, I hope I don't mess this up, they're far more likely to mess things up, because what they're actually saying to themselves consciously is there's a possibility they could mess things up, and that the imagination blows out of all proportion, and it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've got to be very careful about the suggestions you give yourself, which again, something I cover massively in the book. So to the school bully that came up to me that day, this is where the story changed and brings us bang up to date. He went to pin me against the wall, and his hand connected to my throat, I immediately went, oh, why don't you just F off and forget all your flipping verbal insults? Why waste time? Just get to the point. Why don't you just hit me now? Go on, try and hit me now. And this was totally not what he expected. This is not what had been happening on a daily basis. And the confusion and disorientation, you could see it happening in his mind almost as his eyes glazed over. And suddenly, still in silence, he let go of me. I'm still looking confused, dazed, and what the heck's going on? Turned to his entourage and said, follow me, fellas, or words to that effect. And as he was walking off, turned and looked at me and said, don't effing, swore, don't effing come near me again. Well, I had no intention to do it. And from that day on, he never came near me. And that's when suddenly I realized the structure of words, these psychological principles. Wow, they can end bullying like that. What else can they do? And that's what led me to then taking a course from the Association of Professional Hypnotherapists and Psychotherapists, as founded by Dr. Brian Howard here in England. And in 1989, aged 14, age 14, I became the youngest ever member of the Association of Professional Hypnotherapists and Psychotherapists. And now aged 47, I've treated thousands of people to help them with habits, addictions, fears and phobias, to overcome emotional issues, panic attacks, and you name it, from A through to Z. And not just with personal issues, but also with business issues, imposter syndrome, feeling that perhaps you're not good enough, or overcoming a fear of public speaking so that you're able to go out there and spread your message further. And from a digital marketing point of view, over the years, as I learned more, I put together various courses that all appear on my website, ultimatehypnosiscourse.com, that used to be on VHS videotapes years ago, but they're now in, and then DVDs, but now they're in purely digital form because of the world we live in. And we've gone into a world of downloads and online streaming. And I've moved with the times, which is something we've all got to do with business in order to keep sustaining and increasing our profitability now that we live in a digital world. So that's kind of what brought me to where I am now.
That's really awesome, Jonathan. Like, I was able to visualize the entire story the way you were saying, whether it is, the lorry which was passing by, or whether the bully episode which was happening, or the way, like, you must have felt at the age of 14, being the youngest member of the organization. So kudos and congratulations. And I am super excited because this is something which, you know, auto suggestion, which is also said in Think and Grow Rich book. And when you
Yes, auto suggestion is another name for it. Emil Coué called it. I forget, but in some of his books he did call it auto suggestion. And yes, indeed, it's also mentioned by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. It's mentioned in The Lazy Man's Way to Riches by Joe Carbo. It's mentioned in The Biggest Secret by Earl Nightingale, and a whole bunch of these other leading books. And the reason is it works so well for these people is because it helps you to reprogram your personal laptop computer.
Absolutely. Super excited, Jonathan. And when you said about that one book, and because that book is like the foundation of what I am, and that's How to Win Friends and Influence People, because that is something which has able for me to gain the confidence and understand the psychology of how the people actually react, respond to the various body language, communication, and many things else.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, like, we get to know that, what was the, like, why did you actually entered into hypnosis, and then you maneuvered yourself into entrepreneurship and business, and how marketing and everything else also, because NLP also suggests a lot of things for sales and marketing, copywriting, and many other things
Oh,
basis on
yeah.
that.
Well, I very quickly, because of the background I came from, circus and magic, on the circus, some of the things that look really dangerous actually aren't as dangerous as they look. And in truth, some of the things that look relatively safe can prove to be fatal with one tiny slip. Not everything. Some of the things that look dangerous are. Some of the things that don't look dangerous aren't. But there's actually a mid-range area where things are not as they appear. So I grew up in a world where I very quickly learned that things aren't always what they appear. And that expanded when I learned conjuring and magic tricks, because, misdirection, sleight of hand. But actually, there's an awful lot of psychology. It's more sleight of mind, making people think differently and therefore react differently and look elsewhere, as much and sometimes more than it is going crudely, look over there, and then doing something. Obviously, you do it far more subtly than that. Just trying to make a point. So again, and then and for a brief time, I also got involved in the world of mind reading and apparently, mentalism, as it's called in the magic world. And again, trickery, techniques that the real work, the people watching never know about or get to see, the stuff going on behind the scenes. And this put me in a state of mind where I thought, there has to be a trick. And most of these things, once you know how they're done, are disappointingly simple. Okay, so you might be amazed by the grand magical performance when you don't know how it's done, but when you know how it's done, it's like, oh, is that all there is to it? So it's better to not know, when from an entertainment perspective on those things. But I wanted to know, and that's the way my mind was curious. And I always figured as Occam's razor says, find the simplest solution is generally the best, or KISS gets thrown around in marketing. Keep it short and simple, or keep it simple, stupid. Or as Paul Daniels, the British magician whose television star used to say, he expanded it and said, kiss a tit. Keep it short and simple and think it through. And I thought there had to be simpler ways. And as I looked at it, I realized, well, I'm now marketing my hypnotherapy services myself. And I very quickly came to the realization, but I've been brought up in it on the circus, Phineas T. Barnum, of Barnum and Bailey fame, who people say he said there's a sucker born every minute. He never actually said that. There's no evidence of that. As Joe Vitale, the marketing expert, says in his wonderful book, there's a customer born every minute. That's probably more likely what he said. But one thing Phineas T. Barnum did do was he knew the power of marketing, positive propaganda. That's why when the circus comes to town, for a good couple of weeks before, in every shop window, on every signpost, on every lamppost, there is a poster for it. They know how to spread the message, and I grew up around that. So I already learned by the time I passed that exam at 14 that the difference that makes the real difference between scraping by earning a living or making a whole ruck of cash and getting success, whatever that may mean to you, was marketing, advertising, publicity and promotion, MAPP, to put yourself on the map, to set yourself apart from other people. And I was lucky because of the background that I was in, very fortunate that I learned these lessons at an early age. And show business is razzmatazz, it's bold claims. Phineas Barnum, did this with Tiny Tim, the smallest man in the world. May have been, may have not, don't know, but that's how it's marketed, because so that there's something outrageous, controversial, controversy, outrageousness. Don't be one of the sheep. Stand out. Don't be scared of being one of the sheep. I am in a roundabout way answering your question at the same time as hopefully imparting some wisdom for people, because I realise I kind of appear to be going off on one slightly. A new Uri Geller, who you may have heard of, is the psychic who apparently, you know what? I'm just going to, 1 second, stay there. Don't go anywhere. Normally for when I'm doing magic shows, I keep these to hand, and I didn't think I'd, but you know what? I didn't think I was going to do this today, but you know what? Let's go for it. Uri Geller is famous for spoons, forks, keys, kind of just thinking and making them melt or bend with his mind. So look, I'm going to call this hand A and this is hand B. Which one would you like me to use, A or B?
For me, you can try A.
Okay, so this was A. Okay. Everyone, look at the screen. This is what Uri Geller showed me at an early age. I saw him do it on television, but then I saw him in person.
So the first time on the Digital Maddie Show, we are actually able to see something unique and excited. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
And what he said to me was, focus kind of the color red, because red is a combination of orange and orange rather, because it's a combination of red and yellow mixed together. It's one of the most powerful colors. It's like metaphorically like the color of the sun and heat. And he said, and focus it. Stare at the spoon there. And now I know the light is shining on the spoon, so that gives a weird optical illusion that it might be bending. It isn't. That is just the light, okay? However, as I rub it ever so slightly, you might start to notice, so bring it a little bit closer to the camera, that actually, oh yeah, actually I feel that starting to happen now. If you just, with one finger there, you see, it's almost as though it's looking as though it's starting to get a little bit plasticky, as though it's starting to melt. And obviously it's not. This is just a spoon that's as we say, quite solid, but concentrate and watch, because just one finger very gently, it's almost as though it looks as though it's starting to melt. It's starting to melt, it's starting to bend, and I just want you to concentrate on that. Concentrate heat towards the screen, watch closely. It starts to melt, it starts to bend. It's almost as though it's starting to melt and twist. Melt and twist, melt and bend. Just concentrate on that energy towards the screen, focusing now. And you do, it gets hot. There. And Uri Geller is the most famous paranormalist entertainer in the world. This year is 50 years since he hit the headlines around the world. And when I met him in person, he said to me, he said, be controversial, be different. And there's a reason why, if you go on my website, magicalguru.co.uk, that's magicalguru.co.uk, which has just got my career resume on it, why a lot of what I've done goes against the grain, can be deemed as being outspoken, controversial, outrageous, purposely was meant to upset some people, but at the same time as upsetting some people, they would draw attention to what I did for a load of other people who wouldn't be offended by it. Because you're not going to please, it's impossible to please all of the people all of the time. You can please some of the people all of the time, all of the people some of the time, but never all of the people all of the time. So why waste your time, energy, marketing, advertising, publicity and promotion budgets and efforts on that? Because not everyone on the planet is going to be a customer for your product service. Even if your product was a loaf of bread, not everyone on the planet, even if everyone ate bread, and there's some people that don't for medical purposes, but even if they did, not everyone is going to want your bread. Okay? So the lessons learned from that is find who is the right type of target customer for your product, your service, in the way that you want to deliver it. And by that, I mean, because it's not just about making money. Money on your deathbed isn't what going to be makes you happy. What's going to be happy is the life you've lived. And to live the life you truly want to, you need to truly enjoy what you're doing and have that sense of purpose. So if you end up doing what society and convention and the norms of your industry say you're supposed to do, it's quite possible that might not be what makes you truly happy. That doesn't mean you have to get out of that industry. It means you could be the one who changes the rules. Every industry has had a rule change or a rule breaker at some point. You know, Steve Jobs did it with Apple and the way computers, he went in office one day to the team and said, look, there's got to be a way to just press the button and the computer's instantly on. Solve it. Let's do it. But Edison was a visionary, and we can learn lessons from these people. He failed, some would say, thousands of times to create the monofilament light bulb. But he never saw it that way. He said he'd succeeded yet again in finding a way that didn't solve the problem and didn't work. He reframed it, as it's called in NLP, so that there was no negatives. It was reframed to being a positive.
Again, that is also a part of an auto-suggestion kind of a concept, because this is
exactly
what
it is.
It is just trying to send you a lot of positive waves rather than the negative waves. Simply loved it. But Jonathan, I would like to ask one question. Will that spoon again join back?
Not unless, I don't know, somebody got a welding torch to it, maybe. Yeah, but no.
So, because there's going to be a lot of questions going to be asked. If you're watching this interview on YouTube or any other platform, do share in the comment how did you felt when you saw Jonathan performing it live, of basis on your focus, basis on your energy, that yes, the spoon can be melted and can be separated. And
we'll take another one of them spoons and just Just concentrate on the screen. I'm not even going to touch it, but look, if you concentrate, and I'm not touching, it's already started. It's already starting to bend. If you look, you'll see that the handle's bending more and more. And I just want to, I'll bring that in closer to the camera, but you can see that it is actually just gently as you focus, it's bending more and more. And if we just take one of the that's wow, that's massively, and that didn't take long at all, but it's already massively. All right, everyone, focus. Think of the color orange, right? Now, mount, and whoa, look at that. It's whoa, massive. Look, the power of the mind.
This is you,
it's not,
Jonathan.
it's trickery, but it's a metaphor. But the truth is, the power of the mind is more powerful and has more potential than any computer known to mankind. Now, it's not a computer in the same way as a computer, but it's a great metaphor, a great way of actually helping reprogram. If you're not managing to achieve the things you want to achieve in your life or your business, quite often it's because, although you're consciously making the effort to, you may be phrasing things the way we said before that entertains the possibility of failure. Or even if you are phrasing things right, it might not work for you fully as much as you wanted because you've still got negative programs running in your unconscious, subconscious mind. And that is the area of the imagination. And when the imagination and the conscious will are in conflict, the imagination always wins, as is covered in Think and Grow Rich and all the other books we mentioned. So you need to get into the hard drive, so to speak, of your unconscious mind, your subconscious, your personal neck-top computer, I refer to it as in this book, and delete, metaphorically, any negative thoughts, memories, emotions. And I don't mean that you'll forget things, you won't, but the way it makes you feel or react to things instinctively can change. And then install, metaphorically, mental antivirus software for the brain in there so that negatives can't get back in. And finally, install some new software, new programs that are consistent and congruent with what it is you truly want in life, in every nerve, fiber, tissue, and muscle in your body, from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers. And when you examine doing this in a way that's in alignment with your true core values as a human being, you will often find that you go, you know what, I don't want to have to be restricted by doing things the way the industry norms say that I should. Well, that's fine. That's your inner true you saying, be unique, be different. And yeah, that will upset some people and it will ostracize some people and it will put some people off ever dealing with you, ever becoming one of your customers, but you can't please everybody. But what it will also do is make you stand out to a whole subset of people as well who will go, I love the person's authenticity, the way they do things. That's the person I want to deal with. And it'll actually make it easier for you to market, advertise, publicize, and promote what you're offering to your perfect ideal customer. And in turn, therefore, you know, you're better off having a reasonably small customer base that wants to continue dealing with you forever than wasting time trying to attract everyone and they perhaps only deal with you once or twice.
Awesome. That's really awesome, Jonathan. So, Jonathan, with this, we this can go on, and I'm super, charged up. Just looking at, two different, only by the power of mind, we were able to do it. And I will come back to a couple of questions that I wish to ask. But with this, we end the phase 1 of the interview and would love to start the phase 2. And everyone knows the phase 2 is all about rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions and let me just zoom a little bit. Zoom. And yes, so I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You won't get time to think. So whatever comes in your mind, you can just, straight away share the answer. So, Jonathan, the first question is, describe yourself in 3 words.
Controversial, egotistical, idiot. But I mean the word idiot in a positive sense, just to clarify.
Got it. What's your favorite movie quote?
From Leap of Faith, Steve Martin playing a fraudulent evangelical preacher. Is there any other kind? He's confronted by a police officer, and the police officer says to him, "Look, there's no one else around. Is what you do real or fake? What tricks are you using?" And Steve Martin's character, Jonas Baptiste, I think, or Jonas Nightingale, whatever he's called, says, "Maybe what I do is real. Maybe what I do is just trickery and fake. But what's it matter just so long as the job gets done and people get results?"
Lovely, lovely. Jonathan, who do you admire the most?
It depends. You've not put a context on that, but I'm going to take in the context of marketing, advertising, publicity, and promotion, given the nature of the podcast. In which case, I really do admire and have the utmost respect for Uri Geller, he's just a king of self publicity. Whether it's predicting who's going to win a football match, or using energies and focusing people's energies to make that happen, or whatever other the claim may be. 50 years this year, there's not a year that goes by where he isn't featured extensively and regularly on world media. And boy, most of the time, and that doesn't cost him anything. And because of that, he's made multi-millions and millions and millions and millions through selling books and merchandise because of the myth and legend that he's created around himself.
Lovely. All right. Fourth question, Jonathan. What is the one thing that you would like to put on your bucket list in 2023? I made you think.
You really have made me think there, because you know why? Because bucket list implies that the first thing that comes to, well, certainly to my mind, probably a lot of people, things to do before you die, bucket list. And people quite often have to go through something traumatic in life to make them go, "Oh, time's running out, I better do this." Whereas I think it's probably a far better idea that you try to keep pushing your boundaries and trying new things as often as is possible. One thing, and I've done it before, but I'd like to do it again, is probably when I go on holiday, what do they call it? Paragliding, where you pulled along by the balls, and it's just like you're flying. It's so peaceful in the air. It's like being Superman, just pulled along in the air. You feel weightlessness. And yeah, I mean, that's something I'd love to do, but I don't know. A better answer might be just like to continue experiencing things that hopefully turn out to be enjoyable, exciting, and memorable. Making new memories, but that's something that we should all strive to do on a daily basis. Positive
Absolutely.
new memories.
Absolutely. Like I made my memory today by just bending the spoon. Lovely.
Excellent.
And coming to the last question, Jonathan, who's your favorite superhero and why?
Favorite super? I always, as a kid, I mean, I did like Spider-Man. I did, to a degree. But the films that really stick in my head were the original Superman films with Christopher Reeve, who, as we know, I mean, bloody hell, just heartbreaking it was to see Superman. I know it's not Superman that ended up in the wheelchair. It's Christopher Reeve, the actor who played Superman. But for many of us of an era, Christopher Reeve is Superman.
Absolutely.
And you could argue that he was Superman more so when he got in the wheelchair, because he didn't give up. He kept a positive mental attitude. He always tried. So, yeah, Superman.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. So with this, we come to the end of the rapid fire round, and you actually nailed it. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
So, Jonathan, all the people who are listening to this particular episode on podcast or watching it on YouTube would love to know if they want to connect with you. Where can they connect and contact you or get to know more about you?
Okay, well, it obviously depends what it is they'd like to know. If they just generally want to know more about me, then check out my career resume at magicalguru.co.uk, magicalguru.co.uk. If they want to perhaps become a fully trained, professionally accredited, properly licensed, insured, and competent and confident clinical hypnotherapist or NLP practitioner or other areas of the mind sciences, then check out my Elite Hypnosis Bootcamp distance learning package at ultimatehypnosiscourse.com. And for anything else, if you just want to connect and say, hey, they enjoyed the interview or ask me a question, you can find me on pretty much all social with the handle of @Royle Hypnotist, which is ROYLEHYPNOTIST, because my name is Jonathan Royle. Or go on Amazon or any other major bookseller, and you can get the Amazon digital Kindle version of this, or you can get the real print paperback book. It's not just a book of words, it's also a book with loads of these things in, QR codes, that take you to interactive videos and online treatment sessions. This book has got elements of it that you'll go, yeah, that's the kind of thing that's in Think and Grow Rich and whatnot, because it's all founded on things that predate even those books and go back to books like The Master Key by Charles Hannay. But the essence that works is in this book, and we show you how to use it to overcome habits, addictions, fears, and phobias, panic attacks, anxiety, depression, how to overcome imposter syndrome, overcome fear of public speaking, and also we show you how to emotionally, positively manipulate people, not negatively. Use with positive intent, manipulation's good. People's emotions and thoughts, and how that applies to marketing, advertising, publicity, and promotion. So whether it's on a business level or personal level, this book has got the core essence of what I've learned in my past 47 years on this planet, and that journey of journey that we touched on earlier. Yeah.